Alrighty, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and every folks. Welcome to a sort of first impressions, although it's more like 20th impressions on Unicorn Overlord here. I wanted to, to share a few thoughts here. So we're now a day past release. I intended to do like a whole full, proper review kind of situation, but life gets to do lifelike stuff every now and then. So it's been a little bit crazy and stuff like that. But what I wanted to go ahead and talk about here was just this game in general. Just the stuff that kind of was like expected during the demo, and the stuff that might have potentially, maybe exceeded expectations or fallen short or what have you. So let me say first of all, as far as falling short, God no, that hasn't even happened once yet. I mean, everything that I was expecting ended up actually happening and then expanding from there. So one of the worries that I had actually going into this game was that there would be potentially a lack of interactions. Like one of the things that we saw from the Ogre Battle series was the fact that basically everything was interactable. You could change who was available for the story. I mean, hell, if you wanted to kill your rivals right from the get-go, you absolutely could do that. Or if you wanted to, kill off the guys that were helping you just to see how the story would react, you always could. And so it always seemed like, it didn't seem like there would be much of that here. And while so far I haven't seen any main, like, direct story interactions like that, as far as the actual character moments of deciding who gets to be where, who gets to survive, live, die, all of that kind of thing, I've been very pleasantly surprised by the fact that it actually has been pretty okay with letting you miss people and things like that, and they seem to actually show up in cutscenes. I don't know the full interactions of all this, but right off the bat, just to compare it with one that I can't ever seem to stop making fun of, let's compare it with something like how Triangle Strategy handled a couple of their events and things like that, right? So you remember in Triangle, I mentioned several times how it felt incredibly frustrating. How they had a veteran character who essentially switches sides, who doesn't end up doing. They basically have this whole interesting backstory of like they switch sides. They were a general from the other side. They were gonna try and make up for all the stuff that they did, and then ultimately their plot line was like, "Well, look at that! I saved some random dude from getting mugged," and then just nothing happened. Other than he got a new nickname and he's like, well, my PTSD is cured. Sure glad we resolved that plot line in zero point 0.5 seconds. And then that was it, right? Now, let me go ahead and say one of the early plot lines I ran into upon full release here really just it basically was a very similar idea that ended up handling that particular idea with a lot more, frankly, respect to what that kind of situation entails. That it actually respected the fact that, yeah, people are going to be going through some stuff. They can't just simply switch sides and decide, yeah, I'm just a good guy now. They're going to be racked with guilt. They're going to act out in weird ways. And sure enough, there's one guy that just basically decides, screw that, I'm not going to switch sides. I'm going to go frickin' become Batman. So he just keeps showing up all over an entire region to go and assist with fights. And I'm actually really glad because I don't know if it was just like random battles or that specific area that they were supposed to show up in. But there were just several fights to the north end of the map that they just sort of kept showing up. It's just like, yeah, no, there's evil things here. I gotta go kill it. And after every interaction, they're like, I'm pretty sure we know who this guy is, but what the hell's wrong with him? That is to say, the actual individual character moments, the moments of growth between people, actually kind of going and looking over their problems, looking just kind of processing emotions, as it were, something that I regularly praise the Ogre Battle games for. That's here. It's not exactly perfect or whatever else. Obviously, no game is ever going to be really perfect for that. I think probably the farthest I've ever seen it taken was something like New Vegas. But still though, it's great to see that kinds of stuff actually play a part in the story. It was honestly really fascinating. I guess minor spoilers on this, but like this squad right here, this one kind of made me smile. That there was a little bit of a story between two of your knights here. Again, minor spoilers. I'm assuming y'all probably ran into this pretty much immediately. So the reason that I found this kind of fascinating is that these two were effectively a kind of accidentally suddenly divorced couple by circumstance, right? Um, and this isn't too much of a spoiler because you find that out pretty much immediately, but the reason that I found it fascinating is the interaction between the two, the character moments between the two, went a lot more interesting than I expected them to go. They actually did go places with the way that they talked, and they actually, again, properly embrace the fact that these two don't hate each other. They just awkwardly don't know how to handle their situation now, and so they constantly have these moments where they're just awkwardly basically shuffling their feet around of just, like, why do you refuse to even give any eye contact here? What's going on here? And neither one of them has a good answer for their situation. And for anyone that's ever been in a like relationship spat before, where the people didn't hate each other, but they also were just being really awkward, you know that feeling. And it took me by surprise to see that they actually had that there. So, with that being said, let's get away from the sappy stuff for a moment and start talking about mechanics, because those mechanics have still kept on giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And I will say again, I haven't explored everything as of yet, simply because as always, I got carried away with trying to break the game. So immediately I was like, let's go to the island that you're not supposed to go to yet, and let's go ahead and try to break the game that way. Let's go ahead and try to get a bunch of mercenaries that I'm not supposed to have yet. Let's just go nuts with this. And sure enough, the game didn't say no. It just said, yeah, if you can pull it off, go for it. And when you start getting into those really interesting moments of like, okay, you have no shot in a straight battle here, but if you put down barricades and mines and things like that, you can stop all of these completely unstoppable enemies in their tracks. You man the siege weapons, go take them out with those siege weapons, catch up on levels just by means of you just splattered an entire squad of frickin' like Giga Chad werebears and crap. Like, it feels fantastic. To say that they nailed it is an understatement, because they really, they did really good with the balance of everything at play here. When there's that whole thing, like, I wonder if that 10-year development cycle was worth it. Oh, you better believe it was worth it. They did fantastic here. It's shocking to me how well they've actually pulled everything off. Actually, are they currently resting? No, they're not resting. Go ahead and finish them off. Why don't you? But yeah, mechanically speaking, I've loved seeing the absolute depth of the mechanics at play here. The fact that you'd figure the siege weapons would be completely busted, and then you realize somebody's been fine tuning that ammo count for a while. The way that the counters interact with each other allow units that are completely outclassed to go and fight way above their class there, so to speak. The way that the points are balanced feels incredible. Basically every step of the way, I've been consistently surprised with how well everything has been working. Also, by the way, random note, I forget if I ever mentioned this. Basically, every character that I've got as a generic was meant to be something from somewhere else. So, like, Zadie was supposed to be the person with a Z name, whose name I don't recall, from Dark Souls 2, the Emerald Herald. We've got where my Fencer squad is, that was supposed to look like Lucatiel. I like Dark Souls 2, dang it. Anyway, so point being behind all this stuff is that, yeah, at every turn, it's just been another pleasant surprise, another pleasant surprise, another pleasant surprise. Like, the one fight that I was talking about here, I don't want to show it for fear of potential spoilers or whatever else, but I just want to say that it was really just a mind-blowing moment to go through that northern gate there and have this moment of like, okay, there's immediately an Ogre Battle 64 reference with what feels like Liedel and Bisky as a squad there. It's another like werewolf and archer team that's just kind of out there. So it's kind of interesting to see them immediately showing up, but then immediately have that followed up with probably the most insane fight I've seen since release here, of a multi-front fight where you've got basically like freaking like this game's version of Helm's Deep, and I'm sure it's going to go way crazier than that, where you've effectively got like a four-front fight going on. That you've got your oh wow, these guys are getting completely dunked on, aren't they? Well, oh well. So you've got your you got like a big old team of neutrals that's fighting everybody. You've got the enemy squads. You've got your squads that are deploying in from the sides. You've got the guys that you're supposed to be helping out that have got their siege weapons and their elite units and things like that. You'd think would be able to completely wipe the floor with everything there, but man, that moment. Those that have played the game before will know that moment that I'm talking about. There is a moment about 1 minute into that fight that is the most solid interaction, the most solid introduction I have ever seen for a class in any game ever. Like, if you've ever had that moment where you were playing March of the Black Queen, or you had that one moment in Ogre Battle 64 with that one werewolf, yes, like, I know I forgot to mention Bisky. It's weird because I mentioned Bisky, but also mentioned that there wasn't a Bisky in the same the same video. But those moments where werewolves and stuff like that are introduced, the way that they introduce them in this one is freaking mind blowing. Okay, it's what was it? I think this fight was it Tempest. Yeah, come to think of it, Tempest of White. I think you can actually deploy from different regions too. It's the same fight, but you've got two different start points that you can start it from. I know that this is the one that I was starting from that first time, so apparently that's a thing too, that you can engage fights from multiple locations. But yeah, multi-front fights, and to basically see this tide of absolutely unstoppable units, and then to be able to actually deal with it using barricades and mines. I wanted to make it its own separate video because, oh my god, that fight is cool, but I don't want to spoil it, so I'm still deciding what to do with that. But man, it's been so cool to see these different moments. Also, yeah, again, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, the fight with Melisandre here, where you can technically recruit her. In case you're curious, if you just execute her, you get a bunch of honor points instead, and you can go expand one of your teams. Personally, like, this is one of those games where it doesn't feel like it's going to directly shake its finger at you in terms of telling you made the wrong choice, or that you should have made a different choice, or, here's your moral choice or whatever else. This feels like one of those ones that you'll just role play through differently every time based on circumstance, kind of like a Knight of Lotus, where oh, and by the way, for confusion, since I've seen a lot of new folks since this came out, when I'm talking about Knight of Lotus, I'm talking about Tactics Ogre Knight of Lodis, not Lotus like the plant. They're like the main bad guys in the Ogre Battle games. But basically, it was the Tactics Ogre game that got kind of interestingly boiled down into this GBA game that had really solid mechanics. Anyway, so it feels like, again, that like there's going to be a lot of those moments where you're making decisions based off kind of roleplay type things, but it's not necessarily going to lock you out of content for it. So, like, the way that I see it for my particular run, it feels like the kind of standard pair up here should be Chloe and Elaine here, right? So, if there's anything with that later, I don't know. But, like when we have that Melisandre lady show up, like, you got somebody that is uncomfortably horny for for the main character. It's like, yeah, this lady's gonna try and cause some drama. So yeah, when he had the line at the very end of like, yeah, the only option I see here is death. It's like, yeah, kind of, you know what? That actually kind of tracks, because I feel like this lady's going to do something. From what I've seen on video thumbnails, I've been trying to avoid other reviews and other videos and whatever else, because I don't want to like spoil stuff. But from what I've seen, folks seem to like that character, so I would assume they probably aren't going and betraying you or causing all kinds of relationship drama. But still, to me, it felt like that's what they were going to be doing. But yeah, the exploration has felt fantastic. This moment of getting into the northern reaches, and this is just like some like Dark Souls shit that happens up here. And again, we have those moments where there's options to get into other areas, but if you found a way to get a hold of the right materials, there actually is seemingly. Again, this is another one of those things that I'm kind of waiting for here to deal with this fight another way. But there's seemingly also like another alternate path over here with a bridge to repair, but I don't have the parts to repair it yet. The kinds of units that you're running into is just constantly expanding. There's actually one particular squad I'm looking for right here, just to show Vale, if you're watching this, you're going to be very happy with. I think it's this squad right here. Not only not only are there werewolves and seemingly were tigers. Actually, this is the berserker one. We've got were owls. We've got were bears. I'm sure there'll be other ones too. These guys are horrific, by the way. The owls are absolutely terrifying, and they will murder you on sight. The later game gladiators are just jacked to all hell. But man, were owls, like what? Who expected to see were owls coming in? Yeah, we do nothing to these guys. In actual engagements, that we can deal with it in other ways, through skills, through items, through traps. The okay, I mentioned earlier this fight up here that's just basically like freaking like Helm's Deep meets the Battle of Hoth or whatever else with werewolves. In that particular situation, you put down a gravity well to suck in this gigantic army, you put in a bunch of barricades, you place down a bunch of mines, and then you keep firing a catapult at it. It's like, I don't care how invincible you are, that is a hell of a lot of firepower that's killing you right now. I mean, it just feels so good to see so many mechanical interactions in fights. Like seeing those moments where you can block off reinforcements by just exploring the map ahead of time. Like seeing that the characters will actually address the fact that you've gone and done these things and will react accordingly. We're going to skip this fight because this is just where we get dunked on by a bunch of birds in the forest. These trials actually have been a pretty interesting thing too, where if you ever get drastically behind, like I feel like this sequence break was almost intentional, and this is one of those reasons I was so excited about this, because the level difference is only up to 25, and my party over here, well, I mean, they're up to the point of being almost, well, most of them are roughly in the 10 to 15 ballpark. However, every time that you clear this repeatable map, you get a bunch of items that specifically give you extra experience up until 20. So it kind of feels like they mean for you to be able to just quickly be able to power level your entire party within like an hour. So, like, there's that as an option right there. Let's see what else. Truth be told, I got distracted by all kinds of random things when I was going and looking at all this stuff. I don't think there was an NPC for this here before, but there was like somebody that was rewarding you for map completion over here. Got weirdly into the mining minigame upon first starting. Just realized that you could basically make a profit every time. That was kind of neat. But yeah, overall, literally my first day into this whole thing has just been trying to sequence break into the north of the game, and it has been an absolute blast. So it makes me incredibly happy to see that siege weapons are as fun to use as you'd think they would be, that counters are just as good at beating overpowered enemies as you'd hope they'd be, and seeing that you can do crazy things like, just putting a bunch of healers on a griffin squad, switching them partway over to let them land behind a wall, take over a siege weapon, take over as healers for units nearby them, use your heavy armor units as well as some camping kits to keep the enemy, or not enemy, but friendly neutrals alive and stuff like that. There's just so many options to go through fights. It's a mechanical just dream, frankly. I mean, a few hours into playing it, I ended up going and actually getting a Switch Lite so that I could keep playing this at work. So, I mean, granted, part of that was finding an extremely good deal on one on eBay. Like, literally, I'm expecting this thing to be on fire when it shows up in the mail, because one should never be that cheap. Found for the price of a broken PSP, for crap's sake. Anyway, so that's my kind of initial first few hours worth of thoughts. It's an absolute marvelous game. Like, the character writing is fantastic, even if the plot is kind of whatever so far. I say fantastic, but it's more the details. It's the little details between your characters. Like the relationships between your people feel legitimately well written. Again, I don't know about the plot, but it does feel like your dudes are becoming your dudes. And of course, it's still very funny to go and force feed somebody cake until they get over their relationship problems. So, actually, I wonder. I didn't actually check if these places have different food. Let's go see. They do, actually. These guys apparently like their soft-boiled egg galettes. Those things look delicious. Cheese steak-filled hash. Pasta al pomodoro with eggplant. I think this is what we had at Olive Garden last night. Anyway. So, yeah. It's kept that. It's honestly improved since the demo. That's like I wasn't sure if they would be able to improve it past the demo, and there's been a lot of nice little discoveries that make me even more optimistic for what we're going to run into in the future. Like for example, with our items here, I found items that tell me we're probably going to have a samurai-esque class. Basically thinking in Symphony of War terms here, where they've got specifically a bow user here that also happens to need Eagle Eye. Um, so considering that this is a feature that already automatically opens up a lot of doors for stuff that could be very interesting down the line, maybe there's more kind of directed skirmisher type units. I haven't gotten to promotions yet. Yeah, I know. Stop trying to sequence break and get to actually completing the game and make more guides. I'll consider it. I'm having fun sequence breaking stuff, man. So, oh man, challenge running this game is gonna be so much fun. All right, I gotta get back to it. I got a bunch of stuff to get done. Y'all have yourselves a good one and take care. Bye.